Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today is July 7th and this is my weekly shop update. So this week was pretty similar to past weeks. Most of my time was dominated by our patio project, but I did get a few good hours here in the shop, and I'll just share with you what I got accomplished here. So sort of the biggest thing here in the shop was I did start on a new project. A couple of our friends are getting married in a couple of weeks, and I'm making them a coffee table. So this week I went ahead and I pulled out all the stock for the coffee table and got it all rough milled, and it's just sitting behind the camera by the jointer, just waiting to be turned into a coffee table. So this weekend I think it's going to be pretty much just coffee table time. I'm going to take a little break from the patio project and spend some time building this coffee table. I'm building a little on the fly with this project. I'm not quite sure exactly everything that's going to be happening. I do have a design in my mind. It's going to borrow heavily from a prior design that I had, which basically that design, which you'll see next week, the main challenge with that design was how do you get solid wood panels joined between two legs. Normally when you build a table, you have legs that are joined by aprons and then a top sits on top of that. But this design doesn't allow for that. And you'll see what I mean next week. A little bit of a teaser. Other than that one challenge with the design, or with executing that design, it'll be a pretty standard build as far as woodworking goes. So of course I worked on the secretary, like always, and I did finish up one of the drawers. So this is what I was talking about before with the angled front. You can see that the two sides are actually different lengths and the back is square. Here's a little closer view. You can see the adjustment I need to make there. You can see a little tiny little notch so I can get that drawer side to fit in there. Square to this. This side doesn't need it. Oh, and on the back I just went with a single dovetail. I figured that'd be faster than subdividing it. But yeah. It's a drawer with an angled drawer front. I'll take you guys over and we can take a look at the drawer in the opening and the other things that I added to the secretary. But, you know, that's one down. 5 more to go. So let's head over and I'll give you a little bit of a tour. Alright, over here at the secretary, besides this one drawer, a couple other little updates here. I also made the second drawer for the prospect box that goes here. And since last week I went and I cut out one of the valence profiles. I haven't done the other one yet, but this kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like when it's done. This drawer goes right up here. Let me get it in. There we go. And so the last thing I need to do on this drawer before I can cut the front profile is to basically make the grooves for the bottom. And the interesting thing about that is the sides and the back, or the back doesn't get it, but the sides, you can run those normally. But on something like this drawer front, which is curved on the inside, there isn't really a way to cut this like on the table saw with a dado blade. So what you end up doing is running a groove for your drawer bottom on the router table. So instead of running this piece over a table saw or over a bit this way, you're actually running it this way, just like that, with a slot cutter. So that process is probably going to be one of the scarier things I have to do, just because you have that slot cutting bit just spinning out in free space. But there really isn't any other way to do that. So I think I'm making pretty good progress here. I just got to spend some time and actually crank out all the dovetails for these drawers, and then really this bottom desk section is done and I can start finally on the top. So I have had a lot of questions on our patio project, and I thought I'd kind of go into a little more detail today. I didn't go into a whole lot of detail previously simply because I didn't think anyone would really be interested in that, and I'm not an expert in what I'm doing out there. So yeah. Now, a lot of the questions stemmed from the fact that I was putting such a large footing out there. And I guess I didn't make it very clear or obvious what that footing was for. Basically what I'm creating out there is a sunken patio. So in a sense, it's a horseshoe shape, and that horseshoe needs to have retaining walls on those three sides. So those footings are for the retaining walls that outline the perimeter of the patio. Those footings, as I mentioned previously, they are formed out with 2x8s, so they're at least 7.5 inches thick. In some spots, I left them thicker because when Lindsay was excavating those trenches for the footings, they weren't all level. As I was putting my forms in, I leveled those with a laser level. And if the base of if the ground was actually lower than the bottom of that 2x8, I just left it thicker. So I ended up with areas of the footing that were about 10 inches thick. So it varied between 8 to 10 inches thick all the way around in that horseshoe. The main focal point right in the center is going to be a fireplace. And if you saw like we saw previously, you saw that there was a jut out in that back wall. And that's where the fireplace is going to go. Inside those footings, we put 1/2 inch rebar that is running all the way through the whole length. The footings are 2 feet wide, and I have 3 pieces of 1/2 inch rebar going through the whole footings all the way around. And also, since those footings weren't below the frost line here, well, they're below the frost line from one side of where the wall is going to be, but on the other side they're not. I added some piers to the bottom of the footing, so that it basically extended the height of the footing further into the ground. And those piers, they were tapered at the bottom so that they provide a little bit of extra resistance against any kind of frost heave. So after the concrete was poured for the footings, I then laid out my walls. I used a chalk line and a laser level and a square and a tape measure to get those all lined up perfectly and leveled. So after I got my walls laid out, I snapped the chalk line and I could start laying my first course of block. The first course of block is simply laid in a bed of mortar on top of the footing. Once the first course had set, I went back and I cut a channel through the whole first course so I could insert a piece of 1/2 inch rebar that's going to run horizontally through the entire wall. And then in every other core, I drilled a hole into the footing for another piece of 1/2 inch rebar, which will be my vertical dowel. I attached the vertical dowel to the footing using some concrete epoxy. Ideally, you would insert those dowels into the footing while it's still wet. I didn't know the exact layout of my wall and where all those cavities were going to be, so I opted to wait until after I had it all laid out. So once you have your first course complete, it's pretty simple just to keep going around and adding courses. I just laid the 2 corner blocks of a run, and then I ran a mason line between them with the line level, and I leveled that to make sure that those were both level, and then I could lay my whole course between them. Every other course, I am inserting another line of horizontal rebar, which will tie the whole wall together. Once all the walls are fully built, I'll be filling all the cores with concrete. These are going to be some pretty solid walls. I don't think they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. So let me take you outside and give you an idea of what we got done this weekend. All right, so walking out the shop door, see I got a few of the walls done. A little windy today. So this wall here, and then this wall over here, these are both at their finished height. When we actually put the base in on the ground, the grade will actually come up to the top of the bottom course. So these walls will be about 2 feet high when it's all done. If you look down in here, we started adding the drain tile pipe. So that's back in there. And then back around here is where the fireplace will go. Let's see, I actually added a curve to the front of the fireplace. It's kind of rough right now, but I'm going to be veneering all the walls, so I'll have a chance with the veneer mortar and the stone to kind of ease this curve. The base of the firebox here is solid concrete. It's about 16 inches thick, and I think we went through about 40 bags of concrete to do that. Coming around here, see I have a partial course here that I need to finish, and you can see my mason line with my line level right there. So that's all I have for this week. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any questions or comments about anything I talked about today, or anything here in my shop, or anything out on my patio, please leave me a comment. I always appreciate those, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next week, happy woodworking.